Nazarite is the name for Israelites who took on them the vow prescribed in Numbers 6:2-21. By definition, the Hebrew word Nazir simply means a consecrated one or a devotee. The Nazarite vow, which appears in Numbers 9:1-21, was taken by men or women who voluntarily decided to dedicate themselves to God. The Nazarite vow involved 1. Abstinence from wine and strong drink, 2. Refraining from cutting the hair off the head, and 3. Avoidance of contact with the dead. It may be regarded as an act of self-sacrifice, in order to serve God unreservedly in accordance of Mosaic law. As the Nazarite was a witness for the strictness of the law, so different from the freedom of the gospel, his sacrifice of himself was a submission to the letter of the Mosaic law. Only 3 persons are mentioned in scriptures as Nazarites for life: Samson, Samuel, and John the Baptist. In its ordinary form, the individual chose himself the length of his term as a Nazarite. The Old Testament makes no mention of a prescribed period of duration. However, other sources like Oral Torah state that Nazarites' vow lasted 30, 60 or 100 days. When the period of the Nazarite vow was complete, the ceremonial of release had to be gone through. It consisted of the presentation of burnt sin and peace offerings with their accompaniments as detailed in Numbers 6:13-21, that included the shaving of the head and the burning of the hair, after which the Nazarite returned to ordinary life. For some reason, probably in the midst of his work at Corinth, Paul took on himself the Nazarite vow. This could only be terminated by his going up to Jerusalem to offer up the hair which till then was to be left uncut. But it was allowed for persons at a distance to cut the hair, which was to be brought up to Jerusalem, where the ceremony was completed. Paul did that at Cenchrea just before setting out on his voyage into Syria, Acts 18:18. On another occasion, Acts 21:23-26, at the Feast of Pentecost, Paul took on himself again the Nazarite vow. The ceremonies involved took a longer time than Paul had at his disposal, but the law permitted a man to share the vow if he could find companions who had gone through the prescribed ceremonies, and who permitted him to join their company. This permission was commonly granted if the newcomer paid all the fees required, fee to the Levite for cutting the hair and fees for sacrifices, and finished the vow along with the others. 4 Jewish Christians were performing the vow, and would admit Paul to their company, provided he paid their expenses. Paul consented, paid the charges, and went with them to live in the temple for the remaining 7 days of his vow. As in case of Paul, he took a vow only for a limited time and was the Nazarite of days. The only Nazirites for life that we know by name were Samson, Samuel and John the Baptist, but to these, Jewish tradition adds Absalom in virtue of his long hair. The Bible gives us no account of anybody voluntarily taking the vow for life. All the cases recorded being those of parents dedicating their children to God. It is very likely that Nazirites became numerous in Israel in periods of great religious or political excitement. In Judges 5:2 they are referred to as the long-haired champions in Israel. At the time of the captivity the Nazarites were looked upon as a vanished glory in Israel, Lamentations 4:7, but they reappeared in later history.